Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about a very difficult topic, important as well. That is how to make it in the world of art coming from a disadvantaged background. And this disadvantage could be your family situation, your financial situation, your education or lack of education. It can be your gender orientation, religion and beliefs. It can be anything and also several things combined as well. And when you have those kind of features, maybe some opportunities are like doors shut on your face and you were never considered not because your art was not good, but because of who you are and what you are. And you can feel very confused, upset, and you are looking for some answers. And this video is made for you because I feel you. And I not only feel you, but I worry you because I am a visible minority female from a developing country. I talked about my past in another video, so I will not repeat my story, but I totally understand the difficulties that you face. And if you ever feel this way, you can maybe learn something from my experience. It's not like lessons to teach. I'm not trying to teach you how to this is not a typical how-to tutorial video that I often make, but rather share my experience, and hopefully the lessons I've learned could teach you something too. And even if one person could learn something from it and feel motivated, feel positive and inspired, then this video is already done its job. All right, so without further ado, let's start. I want to talk about 4 different things when you face a difficult situation like this. The first thing to do is to face the problem and recognize the problem. It's like a disease. If you say, oh, we don't have this disease doesn't exist in the world. But of course, if you don't even look at it, don't even recognize it, you cannot solve it. You cannot develop cures or vaccines to prevent it from happening again. First is you need to acknowledge and recognize and gather information, systematic information, because I believe discriminations are systematic issues. So you need to strike it in a very rational, step-by-step, systematic way. This is the first step. You need to find the problem and gather as much background information as possible. And the first time I realized that Asian art was discriminated against in the world of art was 10 years ago. When I studied at the University of Sydney, Department of Art History, I was taking a course called Curating Asian Art. In the class, my professor handed me reading material was written that 100+ years ago in Europe, Asian art was never considered fine art because it was not fine enough. It was considered natural art, as if monkeys would have done those art. And that made me really shocked because I was like, okay, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was this bad. So to solve this issue, like Asian art status in the world of art, first I need to understand where it all came from and understand the whole post-colonial history so that I can find maybe some cures to improve this situation. But if you are those happy-go-lucky, positive thinker who refuse to look at those problems, then you're very far from solving this problem, right? So this is really the first step. The second step is not to conceal it, because usually the responses I've seen when someone is discriminated against, is biased against and hurt, this person would shut like a shell, just shut. And you try to not show the vulnerabilities so that nobody else could attack you. But that doesn't solve the problem either. I talked to an artist from Lagos, Nigeria. He was trying to launch his online business. He tried to charge people with his online store for commissioned pieces and some art prints. And I told him that you cannot directly do that because you don't have social media following, you don't have a track record of history to show people that you are liable and you are good. As you know, Lagos, Nigeria is one of the world capital for online phishing and scamming. Normally, people would be very, very cautious when the artist is based in Lagos. And unfortunately, that was the situation. And I pointed out the situation. And the first response from the artist is like, okay, I would just say I'm from somewhere else. And I was like, you cannot, because you are from Lagos. It's not your fault. It's an unfortunate characteristic that you must carry. It's a disadvantage. But the fact that if you say you're from somewhere else, you are becoming a scammer and you are not honest about who you are. And one day if people find out, you will lose all the trust and your art business will be a reset to zero, and everything you've done will be just down in the drain, and it's not worth it to lie about this. And you just have to build your social media to find ways to prevent people from thinking that you're a scam. You know the problem that do exist, so that you can come up with countermeasures beforehand, before all of those untrust matters came along, that you already built and paved the way. And that could solve a lot of potential issues before it even came to you. So that was the second step. The third step is to incorporate your vulnerabilities and your disadvantages in your art. And maybe you're already doing that because you are who you are, and your art is made by you, and the person, whatever you are, the person as a package, is reflected in your art. I'll tell you another story. When I was making an art project with artist Li Wei in South France, in a town called Montpellier. It's a beautiful little town, and we were incorporating local ghetto kids in the art project so that we bring art to them. And it was a beautiful project, and we were directing the kids from the ground, and they were flying in the sky with the cables, and we were having a great time. And suddenly a random old lady passed by and looked at it. And I said, well, what do you think? Tell me. Like, no feelings hurt, just tell me directly. What do you think? And she was like, okay, I'm gonna say it. I'm like, yeah, say it. And she's like, is it done by a communist? Is the artist communist? And I was like, how do you know? I did not realize until the point, because I and artist Li Wei, we were both from a communist upbringing. So for us, it was something that we did not really think about. And usually being a communist is not something you can see from the first sight. So I asked her, how do you know? I was so impressed. I was like, tell me. And she said, always it shows, because the gestures, the expressions, and the way you do things. And for sure, it shows somewhere. And if people are sensitive enough, they are going to pick it up. So I think it's a really good lesson for me, is that you don't try to conceal your identity, because it will be showing in your art anyway, and sensitive people, maybe just 1%, will be able to pick it up, and these words will get around. So I think it's really important to recognize your features, good or bad, and then try to incorporate it in your art and be, let's say, an active advocate of your features, so that use your art, you can make people understand it better, and maybe you can also break some silos and get rid of the, let's say, biases, just by showing how wonderful your character is. The last point I want to talk about is a little abstract or difficult, is you need to turn your disadvantage into your strength, into your weapon, into your superpower. And this for each artist is totally different. So I cannot tell you how you should do it. You have to dig around and find out after you have first find out what was the problem, and then try not to conceal it and try to approach it in a positive manner. And then you will be able to turn it around and turn the table around completely. It is totally possible, but very difficult. I'll show you an example. Artist, a friend of mine who had been struggling financially and who never had money to buy a very expensive canvas or paint, and he was once homeless. So later he developed an art style using the medium, that is the cardboard that he collected when he was homeless, and he used it as a metaphor, a symbol for the struggle, the financial struggle, the social struggle, and the artistic struggle. And he used cardboard, and that is a very cheap material and not a noble one. If any other artist used this material, I would say it's a big no-no. Art galleries will not accept that. But because he used his story as a homeless artist, and he was actively advocating for homelessness, or anti-homelessness, and he could use it as a medium, and he could save a lot of money from buying the canvas. And I think it's a win-win, because he could show the awareness of homelessness, and he could save money himself. In your case, how are you going to turn your disadvantage into your advantage? This is really depending on you, and I would love to hear from you. So if you have some struggles, make sure you share with us, and maybe with the collective wisdom, we can give you some input and you can find out your solution. And really, it can be anything. Just another quick example, Kim Kardashian used kimono for her body wear line of products, and she was bashed online for cultural inappropriation. But for example, if a Japanese person used kimono as a, let's say, a series of art and is using it like inspired by kimono, that is totally fine. Even if a Japanese artist would have done a whole collection of bodywear using the name kimono, this person will not be attacked for cultural inappropriation, because cultural inappropriation is usually from another culture to your culture, at least not you from your own culture. So maybe you have some things that you can use that nobody else could, because you are who you are where you come from, you are, all of the collective of your past. I'm pretty sure you can look back and connect the dots. And you can only do that looking back, like Steve Jobs used to say. So looking back and tell me your dots and your doubts. It's difficult to pronounce. And hopefully I can help you come up with some ideas. All right, that's all for today. Thank you very much. It's Friday night. I'm going to put my feet up and have a break. Thank you and see you next.